the executive assistant RFP potentially in the next item. So it just gives us that opportunity to kind of all have a discussion about it and make sure, Tom, that you're comfortable. We in no way want to assign you things that weren't part of what we talked, but make sure, keep me
Yeah.
straight on this,
Yeah.
Tom.
And Tom, when we get to number 12, so 2 down, we completely pulled the PEX piece out. That's its own RFP based on our conversation from before, right? So we've got the amendment for you, then the RFP for the executive assistant, then an RFP for PEX. Production and design and
Okay.
sound and that stuff. So that's its own agenda item with a separate RFP. But I want to make sure, Tom, do you have this?
I have one
one
from
pager?
Amendment 1 to the contract?
Yeah.
I have that.
Okay, good. Okay.
For the record, Tom Gray, Virginia and Truckee Railroad. This is our 48th season, by the way. Yeah, so, I just have a few good ideas, and then the rest of them I just learning as we go along, And a few things I think we could handle pretty easy is the depot staffing on site during the season. We're already there, so we don't have to do a great job, but we'll just make it, we'll add a lot of value for not a lot of bucks, I think. That's the way to do it. And I'm pretty flexible too. But kind of what I think we can do, you saw Candy, so she's wonderful. There's only a couple people that have a lot of experience that are left, so we need to impart that. So by taking into chunks, administrative person to help your part out, makes sense, that skill sets, and then a depot type person, and then maybe an events person. The production person, I don't know, I don't have any indication from Carla at all, so I don't know what's going to happen with that, and it's a big deal. And I haven't even read that RFP. I apologize, but I know a lot of the functions. I was telling Allison that you guys don't want me to sing at all, so that would be bad. But you never know. But just to go, so I think, so if we handle the ticketing and the calls, those burdensome jobs, we already know the product, we can answer. And so Candy, could be the call center for both lines in a way. She's going to charge me some, she'll charge you some. So I think that really works out good. And then she could answer the ticketing emails. There's quite a bit, can I bring my dog on the train? Oh, I got to change this. But she's going to have to learn Fair Harbor. It'd be nice if she could learn besides this stuff right away, this weekend even. Be nice to kind of start getting that kind of stuff done. And yeah, so that was a big thing. The janitorial services, somebody's got to do it. I have a company that I just was walking by and asked this company if they could do it, and they do it during the week, 1 day a week. So get a deep clean once a week and maybe a tidy up, on Saturdays. Somebody's going to have to put in the empty paper. I just looked at there today. My key still doesn't work, my copy key, so I'll have to recut them, but it's the right cuts. So we'll get it. That's the most important thing. There's a lot of little improvements, I think. Just I don't see, I don't think there are handicap handles on the bathroom we need to fix. Stuff like that to bring it up to speed, little things like that. Right away, that I can mention the water inside the hot chocolate room, critical path. I think there's some electrics, but I think most of the work's been done pretty good so far. So janitorial services, I'm just going to charge the cost of the paper and off to you guys, handles or whatever it is, we're already there, so some of that's already included. I'll drop down to utilize the Fair Harbor software. We're familiar with the activity tickets, and Candy is, but to get her up to speed, I don't mind using the Fair Harbor at all. I think it's nice to keep two separate systems away, just to make the counting easier and the perception of everything easier. The incoming calls, that's always been a challenge for everybody. I think, you know, more so than having a number that people call, which you have to have, is actually somebody to answer the phone. So, you know, when I answer the phone, I can answer it on the movies or the track or the regulate, you know, or the, you know, the questions. Um, During the events, that's a big deal. That's a huge block of time. During the season, we're at the depot all the time, and in our shop, we answer a lot of phones down there, you know, for both operations. I don't know what on the coordinate the facilities and parking lot means. I mean, I'm willing to do some stuff down there for sure. I don't know everything. I mean, I missed you the other day on the parking lot, you know, but at least I gave you my ideas, and then, you know, it's just something to think about if there's work being done. And I know I've seen it, you know, change over the years, what's changed for the better and the worse. So, you know, if there's more fill down there, that's more parking in that one end. That would be
No, I agree. I
pretty
walked
helpful.
behind the whole berm all the way down to
Yeah.
where you said kind of the
Yeah.
narrows in.
That would really
Yeah,
help.
easily get, I think, 10, 12 spots if we just push that
Yeah.
where the barrier is, push it out a little bit.
Yeah, and then the dumpster, and all that little
Yep.
stuff, you know.
Yep, get the Connex out of the way on the
Yeah.
side, and yeah,
That's the hardest part, but I mean,
Yep.
we'll see. And then how to coordinate that with the rail bike operations. Coordinate with the track maintenance vendor and team on inspections. And we can do that. I don't know all will be involved, but I mean, you know, we have the skill sets and coordinate with the contractor with the North Pole. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know what my authority would be to them. I would like to see some simple improvements up there for sure. It's nice that they erect it, and you know, the long lead time, the critical path one for the commission is to get the elf trailer out there, and then they can finish building around it. So that's kind of takes, and then get rid of it right away so it's off rental.
Tom, I don't want to speak over anybody, but that would be great. Just those small nuanced
Yes.
things that you know, and then working with each of the individual vendors that we have, I think would be lovely and appreciated.
So whoever, you know, whoever ends up being in charge of the Polar Express, you know, where the buck stops, well, I guess it's you, but, you know, the gift shop's a big deal, you know, and that's a critical path job right now. I just talked to Allison out there about ordering the merchandise, and a lot of times the good merchandise goes to the other venues right away because they, you know, they buy 8 pallets of it and it's gone. Snow globes is one example I remember one time. I don't know what it means by manage all vendors and volunteers, but, you know, I know at one time, my plan for just this summer, at any rate, was to have Candy show up early on the weekends, be the hostess on the Sunday trains, and she didn't feel comfortable staying all day, and I understand the security problems. It really takes 2 people down there, so by us having a backup staff, you know, the train guys, they can let people off the train, open the bathrooms, answer questions, do the gift shop thing, you know, the bottled water, how do you get to the highway, any last minute. So she could show up for most of that, but I wouldn't be a requirement. But somebody will definitely be there to do all that.
Please, Stephanie, yeah, go ahead.
And Tom, I think the thought process behind the, any vendors and volunteers is, just some things, some enhancements that had been done in the last few years to, whether it's the photographs with Santa or the food truck. And, again, we can discuss what those things need to be as it gets closer.
Yeah.
If we can't do all of that for whatever reason, then there's no vendors to coordinate with. But those were what we were thinking as far as vendors.
Okay, well, maybe we could deal with that a little bit later and have this to get us going right now and get the big chunks out of the way.
Yeah, and Tom, if it's a question of like the use of the word all, maybe we manage necessary vendors or something along those lines,
Yeah.
if that makes you feel better, that it's not all encompassing, you have to do
Yeah,
everything.
that's what I was more worried about, because I'll
Sure.
get overextended.
Yep, no, we can make that change.
So I did have a Santa email me, so And believe it or not, Santas are tough. That is a tough one to,
Yeah.
and so, he said he was willing to manage the Santas, so, it's just another little piece that's falling together with people, so, we've had a 6'8" elf, and we have a 6'7" Santa, so, it's hard to, when, they teach you that, when you're dealing with a young child, and it's so impressionable, and you're 6'7", how do you deal with that, and you're an elf? Challenge. Never thought.
Not easily, right?
But
Overcome.
no, so, and then maybe even this weekend, if Candy could work with Allison even off the record or just to get up to speed, there's a lot to know. She knows activity tickets really well. She does that for us and with Kelly from before. So, I think just the mechanical. So,
That would be great.
and, be flexible as things evolve too. But to get you guys started, you need to get started with her.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and we can make the contract effective tomorrow, right? We can change the date so it doesn't have to start on the 1st of June, or the amendment, I'm sorry, the amendment can start tomorrow. So I think that's great if you guys are willing to have Candy come up and kind of help with the
Yeah,
transition.
We briefly talked about it outside, about working together this weekend to kind of, Fair Harbor's very user-friendly, and their customer service is extremely helpful. I mean, for Polar, we kind of call them and say, here's the schedule. Can you make it live? And they do it. So, we can make some of those contacts and connections, show her how to do it. We have several thousand tickets still printed, so that should get us through for a while. Yeah.
Is it possible to, do we give Candy and Tom, do they get their own login then? Because you guys still need one too. Do they get a login or so for Fair Harbor?
Yeah,
how does
I
I
think-
don't know how that works.
Yeah, we can set up
or-
separate users,
Yeah.
definitely. Like, so I'm a user, Leah's a user, our
Yeah.
other hand that we have down there, he's a
Okay.
user. And so we can just add them in as administrative users with
Cool.
full permissions.
Okay. Yeah, because I think from our conversation, just it's a different system, and I think you said Candy has not worked in the Bear Harbor before, so the longer lead time we can give her would be great. So
I've worked in both the systems. I do think that she'll get the hang of Fair Harbor fairly quickly.
okay, that's great. Okay, good.
But the
Yeah,
tick-
so maybe we make the contract effective
hard
tomorrow.
copy
I mean, we
tickets
could
is- yeah,
be the
that's-
25th,
we
so
thought about that. Right?
okay, great. Tom, did you want to add anything else? Or I
She reminded me
apologize.
about the hard copy tickets. That's
Ah.
these lead time items. Kind of have to get that. What's yeah, what we need to do. Like, oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
If
Okay.
I do it for one part, I'll kind of remember the other part. But like, where do we get them? Or I don't know your vendors and stuff.
But we could work with Tom and Candy on that then as well.
Yeah, we can just, all of the files are, and the art files, they're all in box. So we'll need to figure out seats in box, because they do charge per seat. So we'll need to kind of sort through that scenario and how we want to do that. For that one, I mean, we use an online vendor. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but they come fairly quickly.
And then, Tom, the only piece that we still need your help with, and again, not to put you on the spot, is just we need to get some kind of a not to exceed,
Yeah, I
an
don't know
amount.
that.
And I know it'd be a guess, but
Can I
We
do it
can
like
guess high.
time?
mhm,
I think these people are going to charge me by the hour. And
mhm.
so I could just pass that on with a percentage to you from like my time or
Sure.
the company's time.
Sure.
And it would be, I think it'd be the most cost-effective way to go.
Okay. Stephanie, go ahead.
And I think that works out great to bill us, essentially kind of hourly, right, for time spent. But we still should put in a not to exceed amount, just so we are on budget with what we need to spend. And then if there's something that comes up, then you come back and we have a conversation if we need to amend to increase or whatever. So, just kind of spitballing and throwing something out there for us to discuss based on kind of what we're looking at for the range of the executive assistant, I mean, we could probably do 60,000, not to exceed 60,000. And if you don't spend all that, great, Tom. But it at least puts a number in there, and or we can go lower and you can come back, and if you need to, you tell us.
Can I separate some of these out that I understand, like the regular season, so we can get that going?
Mm-hmm.
And then the harder ones, like that gift, I don't know really what that's gonna involve yet, the number of hours. The good news, I think I have a good manager for it that's willing to do it, so at least get it set up, you know. That would, I can do that pretty easily, I think. Just take the Polar out of the general season for the costing. I'll take, will that work? Except for some of the long lead items, the critical path.
Gotcha.
Getting the stuff ordered.
Yes, possibly. From this amendment, right?
Yes.
What you're saying is, okay,
I can
well, we could keep the scope in here,
Yes.
but not try to hazard a guess about the cost. I mean, we certainly could do that, and then depending on if we start to get to the end of the year and let's say we get close to that 60, Tom, we'll just do an amendment to basically add to the not to exceed value. So, we
Alright.
have to add 5,000 more or whatever the case may be. So we could keep all of the scope, and then as we get closer, we can just kind of see how things are pacing, I think, per month, right? With the billable hours. I think that would, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but we'd have plenty of flexibility on both sides.
Sure. I mean, kind of putting it in perspective, 60, there's it's 7 months through the end of the year. It's about 8,500 a month. Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds too much for the regular season, but with the Polar part, then that's a big
Right.
big thing.
Right.
I don't know.
So I do have baseline hours from the last 2 years, and it's separated from Polar operations, assets, board relations, marketing, et cetera. I can list those hours out. I think Tom is right that the biggest variable is going to be Polar. If it is inclusive of Polar, I would argue 60 is not enough. If it's non-inclusive of Polar and it's only general, I'd say 60 is too much. So
Yeah, that's why it's easier to separate the animals, so you guys can get going with what you need, or we, and then the Polar will kind of,
Well, I
and
mean,
it
I mean,
depends upon who you get too. I mean,
Right.
Mhm.
this person's,
True.
right. Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think what makes sense is to put a not to exceed amount, and then as we get down there, we just adjust it, and including both sides of it, because I don't think penny pinching at this point is really what we're looking for. What we're looking for is continuity, and that means put something in there, get going, and then we'll adjust as we go if we need to.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I like that approach, and I mean, really, my reasoning for wanting to keep everything in here is that helps us identify what we need the executive assistant to do. So even if we maybe don't get to that final number, if we understand that the scope of work is what you're willing to do, then that helps us identify what that person's scope of
the
work
one
is
thing
as
I
well.
was gonna take out was the Polar Express manager. Because it has managed all vendors for Polar Express and the regular season. I mean, I think we can do some of that, but I would rather, I think we might need to, whether I find one or you find one, we find a Polar Express event manager, that can help those duties.
Okay.
And it really does depend upon, say you get a good administrative assistant that gets up to speed, and then whoever takes over the production part, over the years, we've had different people, some of them are more focused on the theatrics of it, but not the rest of it, who, the cleaning of the uniforms, all those little details that take forever. I think as Carla got, she took more of those details over, staff the North Pole, staff this, and not everybody's gonna do that. I think it depends who you find that's willing to do that. And I think that we can take over so many of the duties that the person that's gonna do that's not gonna be so overwhelmed, and will actually enjoy it, rather than
Sure.
be just a, nightmare for them.
So Tom, are you okay where it says for special event trains and Polar Express, the commission's assistant will procure the food, the beverage, the merchandise?
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
that was for like the
Yeah, you're good with that part.
canyon trains.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay.
You know, so,
Because we weren't suggesting that you and your team do that. We just called this out in yours, acknowledging that the executive assistant would be handling
Mhm.
the special event trains and the E PEX.
Right, but the part before that specifically states providing staffing for train departure and arrival during both general session and general season and
Oh.
polar.
Gotcha.
I think that may
well,
be
it
the
says
sticking
manage
point.
all vendors and volunteers, so it's kind of like manage all operational systems for
Mhm.
that. But I mean, so if we do the ticketing, the
Mhm.
emails, the phone calls, these are big chunks.
Yeah.
And then,
Could we maybe say manage necessary operational systems, manage necessary
Yeah.
vendors? That way you're not stuck with having to potentially feel like you're doing
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of it. Would you be
yeah,
okay?
maybe that would be better.
change-
As long as I don't get in trouble.
Because I think where I understand some of the difficulty with Polar is, or I think I understand some of the difficulty of Polar is, with this person that would be more of an executive assistant, they can do that day to day, answering emails. They can assist with all of that stuff. I think the hard part is finding somebody in that skill set
Yes,
to then be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
agree.
and so if you're able to cover the on the ground, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the most part, then I don't think there's any reason why the executive assistant couldn't do more of those administrative type
For Polar.
duties and assist.
You also put that there be once a week.
Yes.
If you're
Mhm.
dealing with your monies, it needs to be
Yeah.
every, or another way to do it, there
Mhm.
needs to be a nice safety net.
Right.
there for
We-
some-
we
However,
discussed
we
that.
figure that out.
Agreed. Yeah.
And it's gonna be evolving, we're gonna
Mhm.
go like, wow, that didn't work out.
Tom, do you
A lot of
feel,
it will.
Tom, do you feel that there's something missing at all in here for the amendment, at least to get us started? Do you feel like in the,
Just the regular season, it seems pretty simple
okay,
and will give us time to develop the Polar,
yep, the process.
there's not enough information.
Okay,
If I'm,
Yeah.
excuse me, if I may, I think, again, agreeing with Tom here, as you get closer with determining Polar, who's going to carry, general season, as he said, 2 people. That's all you really need. For Polar Depot staff, it's anywhere between 6, 9, 10, 12 people on staff at Depot. So, who's taking that liability? Who's going to staff those people? Is that Tom? Is this a new events manager? Where those staff are going to fall under? Who's making the hot cocoa? All of those things.
I won't let Clay down up on the other end either.
And that's separate from production. So production is about 40 staff, give or take. So all in all, you're looking at about 65 staff.
and you uniquely, with the transition last year, you had
I took that liability.
all of it then. Okay,
I think a new person couldn't handle it well. It'd be,
yeah.
this is a premier event for Carson
Mhm.
City, and, we're building it back up, Covert, Pump, now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long the Polar brand's gonna be effective, but it's still pretty good. It's worth
Right.
paying for right now.
Right.
I just think the disadvantage that we have to remember is bringing somebody in. There might be somebody who has that skill set, but they haven't ever been part of Polar before. And so that's going to hurt us. So we've just got to, I guess, think about that as we move forward, whoever that,
We have experienced people, and I have a few people I can bring from down the hill
Okay.
to do this and that, but not, people get so sick during Polar, so, man, you think you have enough staff and you don't have half enough staff.
Yeah,
And then
you need 3 times
on and on.
people.
And that's why the number is so high, because we had backups on backups.
Right, okay.
So you didn't have 65 people there at one night.
No, right, yeah, any given
It's just
night
in
you had X
total,
number
we
of
were carrying
people.
about 65 staff.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay. But I just want to make sure, and Mahela, I'm not jumping ahead to any of the future items, but the piece that sits outside of the sound and the production and the design, that's the people at the depot that
Yeah.
are working there.
Correct.
Whereas we were talking about 2 people run all the general trains, great. But that's the 6 to 10 people. So there's another, let's just say 4 to 8 people potentially that would be needed, but it's not. a
So
part
you
of-
have 2 on parking lot, 2 on ticketing,
okay.
2 on retail, probably 3 on hot cocoa, 3 or 4 on hot cocoa.
Okay.
And then we always had a floater in case inevitably one of those people don't show.
Right.
Then you have that floater person that just fills whatever open spot there is that night.
So
That's
Tom,
just the depot part.
yeah, just on the depot part.
That's not the train part or anything.
But perhaps we could figure out a balance maybe with some of your team to help with the gift shop part of it versus the
Yeah,
parking
that's
lot
what I
or-
figured, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think
It
that,
might just be the hot cocoa piece that might have to get some other folks to help with. Because you would be fine on the parking lot side, the gift shop side, and I think, just because you do that already up in VC, so moving people around.
it'd be easier for me right now to take most upholder duties out, but we can handle the gift shop stuff.
Got you. Okay.
Ticketing,
Okay.
and the calls. That's huge right there.
Okay. Okay. Nope, fair enough. Okay.
And like you said, instead of, handle all customer questions, well, we'll
Just saying
help you.
necessary, or, yeah, and then I think you're right, we can kind of deal with that as we get further along into the summer.
You
in
might
the
have a
fall.
super administrator. It depends what kind of skill
Sure.
sets that person has and how much,
Absolutely. Okay,
But we'll make it work out.
okay, well, we are grateful for that. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Tom or anything that you feel we might have missed? No? Okay, so before we do a motion, we're going to go not to exceed 60. We'll put the date to be tomorrow to be effective. And then the alls in bullet point number 2 will say necessary, so that way it doesn't look like you're having to handle everything. Tom, did I miss another change? I think that's it. Okay. All right. Anybody want to do a motion on this
Oh.
item? Oh, go ahead, Tom. If you have a
Provide
question.
staff to monitor security cameras. I don't know how to deal with that one.
Is that just the ring thing, but it's through the app? It has to come to
I think
somebody.
we need new cameras there at any rate and
phone.
different, I don't know. But
Yeah.
we'll figure that out.
Okay.
Maybe take it out of the contract, but we could figure it out.
So
between the
you-
cracks.
Okay, you would like to provide staff to monitor security cameras? Tom?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. We do have a security contract for when the train's down there too, right? I mean, at
For
least
Saturday nights, yes.
Yeah.
Well, we may.
sort of, maybe. Okay, okay.
It's
Oh,
on the agenda today.
yeah, no, right, yeah, that's what I mean, yeah, sorry.
For Saturday nights only through general season. The ring camera, I was talking to Tom about this. For the most part, it's wild horses, it's Tom, and then on rare occasions, it's kids down there that I do sound the alarm.
Okay,
So it's not. It goes off frequent.
Mhm.
So it does require a lot of looking at your phone,
sure.
but it's not a lot of active activity other than sounding an alarm or checking it.
Okay. Is it able to be put on more than one phone? And one
Yes.
of us have it too, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can put it
It's
on
just
more
that
than one
everybody has
phone.
their own login or something, or?
Mhm.
Okay.
We did that
Okay.
for our former rail bike company. They also had access
Oh,
to
yes,
the ring
Tina.
cameras.
Okay.
There is the front camera right now needs to be replaced. It's sandblasted from weather,
Okay.
so you can't really see out the lens. But the cameras that are facing the track are very
Are
clear.
Okay. Okay. So we'll remove that line, Tom, at your request from the third to last bullet. Okay. We feel comfortable then? Tom, are you comfortable if we make those series of edits?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Anybody want to do a motion on this
Yeah, I can
agenda
do it.
item?
You can do it if you want.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Clay.
I move to approve the First Amendment to the VTR contract to manage the operational aspects of the Eastgate Depot and operate a gift shop for a not-to-exceed value increase of $60,000 with the following amendments to what was included in the agenda. We will make the effective date of the amendment tomorrow, being May 25th. We'll remove under the duties or agreed upon responsibilities for VTR, we'll remove monitoring of security cameras, and we will change in the second bullet point, all to necessary in reference to vendors and volunteers.
Great. Thank you for that motion, Clay. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Tom, we really appreciate this. All right, that's a first hurdle down and out of the way, so thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we will move on to agenda item 11 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed RFP for an executive assistant and direction to staff for publication of the RFP. So I want to thank, again, Stephanie for helping get this thing crafted and changed based on what we've worked out with Tom on the operational side of things. Does anybody have any questions about this particular RFP? Anything you don't see, you think we need, or vice versa? Take anything out based on the conversation we just had with Tom?
I guess my first question would be, is monitoring of the security cameras something that goes into this? Or do we find another way to deal with that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could have it on this side at least, so somebody's looking at the camera. So I think that's fair to add that back in. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. I think the reality of it is it's going to be used for an after the fact situation because of the remoteness anyway of where we're at. So maybe that can be taken into consideration as we pick our path forward. And we are we may be increasing the actual security patrol, which I think again might change how it could be handled in the future.
So you think it's okay? We just let that be okay, the way that okay. Allison, Leah, is there anything, just because you guys are doing this now, is there anything based on Tom taking over several elements that you feel we have missed from this position or this vendor role as an executive assistant?
No, I did read through it. I think Polar is going to be the
Right.
elephant.
Yeah.
Because there's really not any clarity here or with Tom's amendment of what Polar will look like. So it's hard, on both sides to budget and to estimate the hours to do it, not knowing where Polar will go. But I think it's pretty inclusive of what we do. Yeah, I think it looks good.
Do you think, we've got things worked out with Tom? We'll start the transition, this weekend with Tom and team, with you guys on the operations side, trying to get a person in on the executive assistant, which very well could take the summer. I mean, for all we know, right? That we can deal with the Polar toward the end of the summer? Or are you concerned that somehow we would have to try to figure that out now? This missing like 6 to 10 people or whatever.
Part of, I know I'm not doing a formal operations update today, but one of the questions that we had was, which probably bleeds into the next agenda item, is there are things that have to happen for Polar sooner than later,
Right.
such as the inventory, as Tom mentioned, the cookies need to be ordered, the Swiss Miss needs to be ordered. We're already getting requests for, when are we hiring for depot staff? When are we hiring for production? Santas need to be secured right now. Polar starts in February.
Right.
So I think for Leah and I, we would need clarity on how much you want us to do. And what we want to transition,
Okay.
because we really can't wait on some of those things to have a full season.
Okay. I think, Michaela, though, I don't want to get way off because I feel like we should discuss that under 13 probably. So just so we don't get 3 items going at the same time. Is that okay? If we just kind of, because you're right, I think we do need to have that conversation, but I think that's more suitable for 13 with the transition in between, right? Because I also, Tom, I don't want to put you in a weird spot where we're like, oh, order 12,000 cookies. You're like, from who? Right? So, okay, so let's break these. Let's just stay with the executive assistant for now before we get into the PEX, which I understand doesn't include the depot staff part of it. Go ahead, Stephanie.
We may, and Michaela, correct me if I'm wrong, but we may have the opportunity that, once we float this RFP out there and we get some interested people to it, we have a little bit more time to talk about some of these transitional things or where we are with Polar when we get to actually doing the contract with the individual that we select. There may be the possibility to add some of those duties. Do you think, is that acceptable, Michaela?
Yes, absolutely. This is just an invitation for people to respond for proposals.
And where you're going with that, if I just make sure I'm on the same page, is through negotiating with whoever it is we decide, okay, lovely, okay, cool, good. Okay.
This
any-
might feel like a
yeah, go ahead.
small item, and I keep scrolling through here trying to find it. But checking the mail, I know that seems like a small thing, but we're in Reno and checking the mail in Carson takes logistical coordination on our end. And I think it might need to be clear that part of maybe that AP process is that,
You want that under, do you think, other administrative duties?
probably.
Okay. Excellent.
And then I think it's already in here, but some of the physicality of it, of going to the bank to depositing checks and going to the mailbox and the actual movement of that is that person's time. I know when I responded, it wasn't clear to me that time, the time for me to get to the mailbox, the time for me to get to the bank I wasn't allowed to bill for that. I think that might need to be a little bit more clear. In case, someone from Reno or Incline or outside of the Carson
Right.
City
Area.
does respond, I think, they need to know.
Do we have checks in there?
Yeah.
The banking?
4.1.2 under the second bullet point.
Oh, okay. Okay. But checking the mail, we would put that above in 4.1.1, but just, we can add that at the bottom. Yeah, okay.
It's small. It just adds up,
No, yeah,
15
no.
minutes in the
No, I
mailbox,
agree-
but it
I-
actually took me an hour
To
and a
get
half,
there, yeah. Okay. Anybody see anything else that you think needs to be in here or modified at all?
No, I mean, the reality is it's kind of a stab in the dark because we have so many moving pieces at this point. So it's really, an effort to get some stability and then we can fine tune down the road. I don't think it's worth getting too in the weeds on it at this point.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Anybody wanna, you wanna say one more? Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
One of the things that I think is important as if we move forward to a motion to approve this, is to also consider when those responses come in, maybe a subcommittee of the commission can be responsible for reviewing those and then bringing the candidates to the commission for final approval. I mean, in the event we have 30 people that are anxious to do this, we might want to narrow that down and bring our top candidates.
That was 30, 3-0.
I want some of what she said.
What's in that giant water bottle? Oh, it's alkaline water from the Carson River. Wow. Yeah, that would certainly be great. I don't mind. I can still get everything to at least come through to the Visit Carson City office because I've got team there all day long, right? So, but yeah, if a couple people want to vet these, that would be super. Push button.
I would be happy
Oh
to
my
review
gosh.
those.
That would be amazing, Leah. Anybody want to join Leah? No, only two. Oh, we can only have. Do you want to, Michelle? No. Oh,
I can do it. I can take that
okay.
on.
So we'll have Clay and Leah. That's
And
great.
we have that in our anticipated schedule, right? Firms notified of shortlist. Is that sufficient enough, or do we need to spell it out more succinctly than that?
It's sort of state RFP, language, so that when you get to that point where, you get down to the top 2 or 3 and you want to bring them forward, that they call it a short list. So.
Right. But I'm just trying to tie together Stephanie's point about pre-qual subcommittee.
Mm.
Is that something we need to specifically call out, or is that sufficient that the anticipated schedule has a date for a short list?
Oh, that's a good question. Are we, Mihaela, are we able to, do we need to do anything differently on page 7? If we have a couple of us that are going to kind of review that and bring forward the top 2 or top 3 or what they decide, is that okay with how we have that in the anticipated schedule? Or do we need to add something to that?
I'm not sure I'm
So
understanding.
under section 7, we
Yes.
don't have anything that specifically says that in our evaluation process, we will go to a subcommittee and narrow down to finalists, or potentially could. It just says, we'll review them, we'll select a finalist.
But there's also subsection 3 where it states that there is a subcommittee that is reviewing. The procedure, a selection committee will evaluate the proposals submitted. And the selection committee may create a short list of qualified proposals.
So, Clay, I think it's one and the same. You're probably thinking, of a county commission, you have subcommittees, but we just, called it a selection committee, so.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm not even seeing that.
It's
So
on
that's
page
on
3
page
under
2.
procedure.
Thank you.
Yeah, page 2, and it's 3.2, or well, 3.1 and 3.2, and
Perfect.
3.3
We're
and
good.
4. So, but we could call it a subcommittee if you prefer, but we just had it as a selection committee.
Nope.
Okay. Well, if we're comfortable with that one change, get this thing out the door tomorrow. I think we give it a try, would be my suggestion, if anybody wants to make a motion for the 30+ submissions coming. Clay and Leah. Yeah.
I'll block out my week.
And we have to have sufficient time for all 30.
Yes, you do. Okay, so I feel good. Yeah, we got that. Okay. Anybody want to do a motion on this one? Anyone? No? Stephanie?
Do we need to include the selection committee, or do we have to include that in the motion? Okay,
No.
no, okay. Then I move to approve the request for proposals for the solicitation of an executive assistant with the change as discussed on the record.
Thank you for that motion, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
And just to be clear, the change was that,
Oh, the change was to add checking of the mail or the postal box in Carson City under section 4.1.1 under other administrative duties. We would just put that at the end.
fantastic.
Yes.
I still had security cameras floating around in my head, so
For the record,
had
yes.
to be reminded.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the input on this one. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 12 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a proposed request for proposal for the Polar Express Theater Production Services and direction to staff for publication of the RFP. So in the packet is the proposed PEX RFP. Again, thank you to Stephanie and Mahale and everybody for helping to get this one ready for the meeting today. So are there any concerns? And thank you, Allison, too, for providing some clarification in some of these items as well. Anybody have any concerns or questions or? And I know it doesn't include the staffing piece for the, like we just talked about, the parking lot and stuff, but we're gonna deal with that later. This is just the production and the design. And I think the sound, right? If people choose to.
Optional, yeah.
Optional sound, yeah. And if there's a couple people that wanna eyeball this one first too. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Okay, she couldn't get her hand up fast enough in case you didn't notice that. And I'm happy to work with you on this one if you would like. So the two of us could maybe do PEX.
I think you might want to add, I don't know, payroll and liability or something along those lines. Manage all solicitation, auditioning, casting, and rehearsals for the cast. But it's the next step after that.
Where do you think we should, sorry, where are you
I'm
at
in
on-
4.1.2.
To cast,
And
okay.
I believe these RFPs reference kind of standard with, workers' comp and
Mhm.
licensing and things like that. But,
Okay.
this vendor would be in charge of the actual payment of
Compensation piece.
compensation, tracking, and then when it comes time for taxes, 1099s, things like that.
Okay. So what would be an easy sentence to add there that would take them from, getting them paid to the 1099s at the end, after the end of the fiscal year? Is there an easy way that we could say that, or do we need to kind of spell out all those individual elements of, because they're basically 1099, right? Everybody's a 1099.
For this one,
For
yeah.
this one?
I 1099'd the cast, and the depot is actually W-2'd. You could probably put it under casting, the optional sound, because, those sound people are also, I think I 1099'd them as well.
So maybe we have 4.1.5
That's what I'm
that
thinking. That's
addresses all.
administrative,
Yeah, just
Apologize, I have a lot to
manage
speak right now.
compensation and,
Yeah.
Of all sound and cast and theatrical staffing, or?
of all.
That's a whole nother thing I didn't think of about, we used to have like a finance person at the depot during Polar. There was a lot to do, and then they have to pay the cast too, That's almost a separate duty from an administrator. That's, yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of a big deal, and I think a production person might not want to handle that.
Prior to me, it was cast was paid via cash night of. I wasn't comfortable carrying that much cash, so I did checks every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Then Bob Robertson did it differently.
Yeah.
Kevin, those guys did it differently, so that's
Okay.
something, yeah.
But regardless, oh, you're saying that somebody that maybe responds to the RFP might not be comfortable with
Yeah, that's
this
kind of
part of
out
it.
of an administrative duty.
Go ahead.
That's why,
Could we put it as like an optional component so that they don't not reply if they feel like they can't do it, but it could be something
Mhm.
we could discuss as it moves forward?
I don't know the option if they didn't do it.
Oh, yeah, because how is everybody going to get paid? Oh, who would?
Executive assistant.
But can the executive assistant carry it? I don't know. I can tell you my workers' comp went significantly up.
All of your costs because you had
Yeah.
55 extra people or whatever, right? Just for PEX on your books.
Yeah, about $30,000, give or take,
Wow.
in liability and workers' comp.
Okay.
we get audited, we're really rigorous on the 1099 versus a W-2s, and
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Right.
If we went the event manager route, I mean, that could be a component that the event manager could assist with the help of the executive assistant. So
Mhm.
I feel, it's probably good to put it in there in case somebody replies that is willing to do it all, but if they can't, give them a opportunity to opt out. Because if we're gonna need an event manager anyway, that seems like that could be,
Something to explore for sure, yeah. At least make people aware of.
So are we back to this being optional, or do we want to say manage compensation, set up and manage compensation of cast?
What if you said discuss capability of managing cast payroll? So you're not saying they have to handle it, you're asking them to discuss the capabilities if they're able to.
Say that, discuss capability
Discuss
of,
capabilities of cast and director payroll and associated reporting. Make it vague.
okay. So it's its own item, it'd still be 4.1.5, discuss capability of cast and director payroll and associated reporting.
Capability to manage.
Capability to manage, yeah, capability to manage. I like that. Cast and director payroll and associated reporting, because that would cover all the way through 1099 or W-2, whatever, however they, I guess.
They can staff
They
it
can
any
do it how
which
they
way
want then,
but
yeah.
again, they might not have the capability to do,
Okay,
it's the carrying of it that,
yeah. Does one negate the need for the, like what you went through with the liability and the, no, either way, okay.
no, you do an audit at the end of the year, mine's due right now, of, how much I paid out in 1099s, how much I paid out in W-2s. And
Yeah.
then they basically look at your workers' comp and tell you,
You were under.
you were under, you were over.
So, and that's what happened to Allison, you guys going from a handful of people to almost 60 or 65 people or however many. Yeah, you just got hammered after PEX. So, okay. All right. Are there any other edits or anything anybody wants to see incorporated into this one? So, Michelle, you and I can navigate our way through this. Good. We'll get our dancing shoes on and lavalier mics and roll through the 40 people, Stephanie, that are going to be responding to this one. Yeah. Yeah. 1/3 increase over yours. All right. Any other comments that anybody wants to make? Could I get a motion on this particular RFP from anybody? Or not?
This is Clay, I can do it. I move to approve the request for proposal or RFP for the Polar Express Theater Production Services with the noted adjustments and changes, and direct staff to publish this RFP.
Thank you for that motion, Clay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Leah. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in agreement signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much on this one. Okay, now we are going to move ahead to item 13 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding contract number FY21-C004 with Atypical Consulting and Events for Admin Operations Coordinator Services and its amendment for the provision of additional services effective through December 31st, 2025. So just laddering back to last month, I did receive correspondence from Allison regarding its intent to terminate the contract effective May 31st, 2023. And at our meeting on the 26th last month, we agreed to bring back the item and talk about maybe a different date and just kind of talking this out between the commission and Allison in team. So I just want to say, I hope you guys appreciate it. I mean, obviously, we're in a unique position, right? Because season's underway, and you can see we have all these different RFPs and amendments and changes and everything that we're now trying to get out the door to replace the services that you all are rendering, right? Which right now is all of what we've just talked about, these last items, right? So I just, the only reason I want to say that is we are still in a weird position, right? Yes, Tom has agreed to take on some of those items. The others, we don't even know what kind of a response we're going to get to these two RFPs that we just discussed. So I won't hog the floor, but I just, speaking as one of the five of us, I just would appreciate your understanding too of the position that we're in. You can see we are trying to figure out a way, right, to let you, out of the contract, right, to be able to, proceed with other work that you have. But at the same time, these two RFPs, release tomorrow. We don't know what kind of a response, if any, we're going to get to either of them. So as we deliberate and have a discussion about your contract and a potential termination date, I just feel compelled to say that, right? Because I want this to be a mutual discussion, but also, if you're not there, then stuff isn't getting done. Yeah, sure. Tom has some of this that he's taking on, but the rest of everything sort of stops, right? So anyway, with that, if anybody wants to make any comments or say anything, or if you want to say anything to Allison, I just wanted to get that on the record, I guess. The position I feel kind of we're in as the commission, because we don't have staff, right? I mean, everybody is a vendor. So anyway, if anybody wants to say anything or add anything, welcome to chime in if you'd like. So go ahead, Stephanie.
David, I agree with your thoughts on this. I think it's a great opportunity for this transition of the operational between Tom and Allison. What and I'm just one, what I would like to see is a report back of how the next month goes at the next meeting, to give us an update on how that transition is working. And if we're at a point where we can say, maybe for those, duties, you don't have to worry about those anymore. But at this point, I feel, to answer your question, there may be some things as far as hiring staff and stuff like that, but I think everything else that you would normally be doing as if you were going to be here through Polar, I think those are your responsibilities under contract, and we really need to move forward on them. If you have questions, I think, certainly, reach out to the chair and find out one by one if there's something where it doesn't make sense, because that might be something passed off later. But as far as merchandise and cookies and all of those other things, we have to pull the trigger on those. So we are moving as quickly as we can. I hope you can give us an opportunity to transition and train adequately. And our goal is to get somebody in here as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I wish it could be faster, but obviously we're stuck with the process that we're in because we're a commission, so everything is a public meeting process for us. So I like what you said about the next month for Tom, and do you guys feel like over the course of June that's enough time to help transition Tom and team on the operational side of things? And then obviously, if we have people that we're going to bring forward for the executive assistant and the other, PEX person, then we could have some time to transition those services over the summer with you guys. So that way we just it's not just a total stop. And then, because anybody else that's going to come in, it's just going to, I fear we're like, the situation we'd be in would be almost akin to what happened with you coming on board when Elaine left, basically, right? And I really would just selfishly, personally like to avoid that happening. But I don't know, what the transition times look like. I'm thinking maybe a month is okay, to transition on for you, Tom, and your team for the elements we just talked about, but then probably going to need a month with the other executive assistant person, and Polar, I'm not really sure what to do because that's obviously later on in the fall. But I am worried about, like you talk about the cookies and things that have to be ordered and everything. You guys do know that stuff and what would need to be ordered? Because I know I was telling these guys earlier, some of that stuff happens now and then July and August, and there's some deadlines, I think, on us by rail events and some of the vendors and everything. And those are the things I'm concerned about without, because off the top of my head, I don't know what all those dates are specifically. So, we can't have that go off the rails, so to speak, right? Or we've got nothing for Polar. So does that, I mean, do you understand kind of our position too and the concerns that we have?
Yeah, so I'll say, I'll reiterate what I said at the last meeting, that we love the train, and we're not leaving for a lack of us wanting to be here. And we definitely want to see the success of the general season and the success of Polar, which is a success for Carson City and a success for Story County. With operations, I think a month is more than enough. Looking at the hours from last year are interesting because we were hired in, May of 21, so you're technically going over 2 fiscals. So, looking at how much you guys actually paid in services for operations and assets, excluding Polar, it was around $50,000 last year. And then this year we're only at about $27,000 because so much of last year was just getting things in place and systems in place, et cetera. So I do anticipate the operations side of it should be a very smooth transition. Worked with Candy in the past, love Candy, highly capable person. Tom knows how to run a depot. I see no issues there. I have expressed, to you, David, that with the timing of when we submitted the letter, we were looking at hiring our staff for the general season. So in terms of actually staffing June, there are some dates in there that conflict. And so we would hopefully work that out with Tom and his team, that, if I'm out of town, if Lee is out of town, that his team could step in. We've already talked about this next weekend, that, they're going to help with the bathrooms on the return, et cetera, to keep our hours down. Because again, my hours and our time invested in the V&T is why we're here, and why we're having to make this decision. In terms of all the other things, Stephanie, to answer your question, everything's lined up. It's just a matter, we can pull the trigger on those things. We would just need the contact of, deliveries and, who. There's the admin email, which will transition, but, having a contact name there and some sort of continuity from when we place the order to when, say, the cookies arrive, we would need those items. But beyond that, Leah, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see any issue. Again, it's not a capacity thing on our part. We're happy to do that and keep things moving through the transition. You have a July 1 date to issue a contract. I think, as expressed in the last meeting, and I'll reiterate today, we just really want to plan. We want something more concrete, something that I can help plan around, because I am an event planner. And so I've got clients coming at me and I'm like, I don't know if I can take your event, because I'm a little bit in limbo with you guys right now. And I want to make sure that I'm right by you guys and that I have the time allocated to you. Still concerned about budget, because I am over the allotted budget, but again, want a smooth transition. So I would ask if we can at least come up with a date today. That would make me feel better. And as much as I can ease you guys that what needs to be done will be done, and we'll keep moving forward, I hope that we can mutually agree to that.
If we couldn't come to an agreement on a date, and I say this, caveating this only because we haven't released the RFP for the executive assistant, which hypothetically next month, right, we have the close, right, and then we would bring forward the top 2 or 3 or whatever names. I just feel like we'd be in a better position next month if we knew we had somebody, right, from our perspective to take over, because otherwise today, like, we don't have anybody, I guess, if you know what I mean, like, to take over for everything else that you guys are doing. So I'm just, and I'm trying, want to be fair, want to be equitable to you, and but also, you know, to us as the commission as well. If we could have some latitude, you know, where we're bringing back at next month's meeting 2 or 3 or 1 or whatever. I mean, whatever, you know, Leah and Clay shortlist to bring back. I feel like we personally would be in a better position as the commission. I know this doesn't help you with a date today, but we would have a person then, right, with a contract that would start on July 1st, and then perhaps that would take a month, right, I guess, to maybe get that person, or whatever, maybe it's 2 months, I don't know, you know, it depends on how much they know about us and everything, but then we could have a plan of attack, you know, a transition plan. But to say, I'm just worried if we say, well, August 31st is great or whatever, or these guys, you know, throw a different date out, but then we don't have a person to take over either, right? So
It's the same worries that I have of why I'm trying to protect my company and my team and my
Mhm.
staff. At some point, will have to replace the income to keep my
Sure.
staff. And if I can't plan for that, it also puts us in a state of uncertainty. So I realize you guys wanting to feel more concrete before putting a date out there. But again, I'm also needing some sort of security as well that I can replace the business at, you know, when is that going to be? And what happens if no one responds? Will we come back here in a month and you guys say, well, you're in a contract, you're doing it, Allison. Again, I've got to protect myself, my team, my business.
No, I understand. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Well, and unfortunately, I think the answer to that question, Allison, is yes, because without you and your team, we can't function through our season. And I would just add to David's comment about the executive assistant. I think it's as important, if not more, to have a Polar production person, because if this commission doesn't have Polar Express, that is very damaging to our revenue and how we move forward. So, I mean, trust me when I say we're working as hard as we can to make this an easy transition on both sides, but we've got to make sure we can continue to do what we've committed to do through the season. So, you know, hopefully we'll get that 30-person response for the executive assistant and more than that for the production, and then we can be having a different conversation next month. But I just hope you understand that is our dilemma is, you know, we certainly don't want to not be able to have our season.
And I hear you and I get that, but if it is me, I'm over budget. And that's why we're here. So I think that's where I'm confused in that, you know, so much of my termination came forward because there isn't budget left to pay for my team and the services that we bring. So you're saying, yes, it has to be you. It won't happen without you. But I'm also saying, how are you going to afford me?
And I think those are just conversations that we need to have along the way. You know, we just have to talk about that. And with some of the things transitioning to Tom, that should, you know, eliminate some of your responsibilities to allow us to focus on some other things if it gets prolonged. But again, I think, you know, if we can have those conversations if they're needed, you know, after next month, we can work on refining that scope. But there are some things that have to happen, and some, you know, there's not another way around it.
Maybe just to interject a little bit, but I think that as it transitions, the critical path activities, you know, which aren't a lot, can be taken care of. You know, I signed the contract with Polar Express, the first one for the 3 years, and you know, by having their contact information, you know, and work with, as Allison kind of can get some of that stuff off. You know, I think that you probably do need her for some of this other stuff, but a lot of that can, you know, so she could be freed up a little bit. And I think, yeah, even on the cookies, hopefully we don't have to order Polar Express cookies this year. We can order, You know, I mean, that's a legitimate question for me, for them, you know? And, we used to work pretty close together with those guys, and they change all the time too. So, just a little bit. One step at a time.
Yeah. Any other comments from anybody on this one?
I guess I just had a question. Allison, you mentioned a concern about being over budget and not having the ability to pay. And I don't remember, and I could have missed, but I don't remember having specific conversations about that dilemma and how we were going to address it within this commission. Was there something that I'm not remembering?
There was a conversation between Allison, myself, and Stephanie, and it had everything to do with the construct of the budget that we approved earlier today for fiscal '24, and just looking at the dollars available that we would have based on rates and what we're paying depending on who's doing the work with Allison. That's how this part of the conversation came up, is there isn't budget. I mean, we approved a budget with, I don't know, $14,000 left, with big ifs still in that, as far as ever getting the right street revenue and some other things. But that's where that conversation happened when we were working with Allison to build the line item level detail out with regard to the fiscal '24 tentative budget.
Got it.
And to shine just a little bit more light on it, I've been over the allocated budget the last 2 years, and was always met with keep moving, keep moving. We got to do what needs to happen.
Yep.
With this last budget process, there isn't that budget to quote unquote keep moving. Again, my scope of work from when I was hired versus to where it is today, yeah, Polar had some added budget, but that was just pass through. The added hours, I had to still do this work for the budget over here. And, a question was, can I be cheaper? And I can't. I have a team to take care of.
Right. So putting aside, so now we're at a different place, and the different place is how do we transition? Are there constraints specific to what's left remaining in the budget with Atypical that would not allow Atypical to handle a transition period of the lengths that we're talking about?
No,
Because the reality is our budget is going to be shot
right.
this year. There's just no way around it with the level of restructuring that we're having to do.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not as concerned if we're not talking about how do we get through the next however many years. We're talking about how do we get through the transition, and I don't see the impediment because the money's there within the budget cap of the overall contract, which is not going to be your concern in the future. And so I do understand the concern about needing to transition to other sources of income, and there's lead time, right? I get that. I understand. But as far as in the short term, in the transition, I don't see where the money is lacking, whether it takes a month or 3 months.
I would agree with you, because we've just done an amendment for Tom plus the executive assistant. So based on what we built in the budget, you're right, there would be, because I'm trying to think off the top of my head, I feel like we just approved up to 60 and then 50 to 60, but we have 129 in there. So yes, I mean, Clay, you're exactly right. I mean, there is money to get us through the summer transitioning with with the amendment and then with the new executive assistant and still Allison, yes. Just because you would have a reduced workload yourself, right? So I mean, and that's kind of why we had to set the amounts the way we had to set the amounts, right? Because of our budget construct. So yeah, we kind of have that buffer, I guess, between the 60 and 60 and the 50 and the 60, and then 129 was what was in the budget on the line item. So yeah.
Well, the operation side of it is small. I mean, compared to everything that we are doing, I think where my head is there's no assurances for me that, you know, that I have an exit plan. Right now, we're going to see who responds, and we might give you a date next month. You know, last month it was, we hope to give you a date next month. Just how long is this going to get prolonged? And again, if I were to be I'm not staffed for the weekend because I had a May 31 termination, and so I didn't staff up for general season. So I'm thinking the same things for Polar. And if you guys come back and say, nope, Allison, you're doing it, there's no assurance to me that Atypical is going to be able to get out of this today, which is why I feel I need to be hard on a date.
I mean, the thing that frustrates me a little bit about that statement is that it doesn't really acknowledge the work that's been done over the last month, unpaid, by the way, to get this stuff transitioned over and I'm frustrated with how we have to operate. I mean, it's government, right? I'm used to the private sector where we can turn on a dime and do what needs to be done. We're constricted. Our hands are tied to some extent. I feel like there's substantial progress has been made in multiple different areas, and that the timeframes on these RFPs allow us to get them before us potentially with our next month's meeting, get them approved and be done. To not acknowledge that is a little bit frustrating for me, because to me that's real progress. And I know we're a ways apart on where we see the contract and the responsibility. I get that, but I don't feel like anyone's dragging their feet.
I feel that this is the exit plan that we're working on, you know, transitioning to these different components of operations and vendors, and we're working on the exit plan.
Just takes a different approach, as Clay said. So through public meetings, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. So, well, my gut is telling me, and just hearing my peers, that there's not an appetite to try to give a specific date today to see what happens with the 2 RFPs. We'll release these tomorrow. I know we have some changes in hopes of, you know, then coming here with some shortlisted vendors on the 28th, I think. And then I think we maybe be in a better position to talk about a potential like end date for you guys. So, am I kind of hearing what you are all saying? So,
Yeah, I mean, if we play the what if game, I mean, what if there is no response? Will we have a set date? I mean, I don't.
yeah, then what?
Who do you turn the keys over to?
Probably Michelle. I think
She's new.
everything goes her way. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, and so, Mihaela, just a question for you then. If there's not a decision today or an agreement on the commission side for a date, but we look to maybe re-agendize this next month with a date, what is that? Is it gonna? What's the result? Is it a letter or something? Or are we sending a letter to Allison, or is it a mutual termination letter, or how exactly would we approach this? I guess.
For the purposes of next month's
Mhm.
meeting,
Yeah.
I would agendize it
The
the
same
same
way?
way that
Okay.
that
That
it
it
is.
is. Okay. And if we came to a decision, then there's like just a piece of something.
Yes.
Okay.
We can formalize that in
Okay.
a
Based
document.
on a motion or a decision next month. Okay. All right. Well, unless somebody, feels compelled to make a motion to try to come up with a date, then I think we table this and bring it forward on the 28th again, and just based on where we're at in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that's not satisfactory, but I don't really see another option for us. I don't think we'd be doing our responsibility if we said, here, we're gonna pull the plug without at least some idea of how the game plan's gonna go from there. I mean, we got pieces in place, we got progress, but
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody's input on this item. So I'm going to go ahead and move us on to agenda item 14 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a proposed amendment with Mendocino Railway for rail bike operations and directing the chair to enter into negotiations with the Mendocino Railway. So again, just as a reminder, we only had the one bid come in on time, and we had requested of Robert and his team to come out and actually do a demonstration of the rail bikes, which we had earlier this morning. So the question in front of us, or the decision on this particular item is, do we want to move forward with some sort of negotiations, I guess allowing me to get into negotiations with him for rail bike operations from the depot. So go ahead, Leah.
Can I just state a concern that I
Yeah,
have?
please, yeah.
The number one concern I have, and this goes back, I've just been thinking on it constantly since he talked about it, was the pricing. His pricing was very high, I feel, for our area. And after writing it today and knowing that two people can get on one and you're paying this, I wouldn't pay, I have a family of 4 and I would not pay the amount that he's looking for. And then it also sounds like he's not really sure about paying us anything. So those two things alone, the bike, it was great. I have limited experience and knowledge about rail bikes, but I mean, it was a great time. But was it 149 or whatever per? I don't see that. So that's my number one main concern.
I would also add that I still feel the quad bikes, that's why we put it in the RFP. That's what our customers are looking for here, are the 4-seaters. That's our visitor, that, they're coming with a child or 2 kids. And so that does become a pricey situation if you're moving from, I don't know, were we at 55? I don't know if that was inclusive of the taxes and the fees, but a 55, per person. And now you're potentially, at 3 bills plus for the 2-seaters, so I still have that concern in my head as well. And that's putting the tourism hat on and listening to, our visitors and what it is they've told us they want and they're interested in. And the other concern I have is just, and I know we this question came up, I think you might have asked about the uptime or the lead time, or I also am concerned about, okay, if we start in September, but then we end 7 weeks, 6 weeks potentially later, that's going to create a marketing issue on my end for sure, because it's such a short season, right? And we'll have missed the trade shows anyway, I guess, but I'm just worried about that. And that doesn't even give us a full picture of what a season would look like. If we had any kind of fires, smoke, I mean, crying out loud, we might get those rail bikes out there for 5 days, in September and October as well. So anyway, there's just a couple of concerns that I have. I appreciated, Robert, I just want to say on the record, I appreciated him bringing them, because until we have a chance to sit on them and, observe them and see how they're constructed and made, I wasn't willing to really move forward at all. So, and I don't want to, compare the old rail bike against the new rail bike, because I'm not an engineer or anything like that, but it definitely was a heavy bike. I mean, trying to lift that thing as a 2-seater, I mean, I think my back is still, thank you, Clay, for helping, but it almost seemed like that bike was heavier than our previous quads, to be honest with you, because I didn't need a second person to help me, change the other rail bikes around. So anyway, but that's the comments that I would have on the matter. We put a quad in there for a reason, and I get that two-seaters work in California with their specific use cases, but I don't know that we're doing ourselves any favors by trying to shift to this higher price capacity and, so anyway, you had a comment, Michelle?
Well, just wondering historically, how many years have we offered the rail bikes?
Just since 2020. It was something basically that was born out of the pandemic, right? I mean, we weren't running the trains, and here you could have people outside and, not have to worry about everybody you're riding with getting sick, and so, but I will tell you, I spent some great time with Tom talking about the impact that rail bikes have had just for us. Rail bikes and the Stewart Indian School Cultural Center Museum, the two things that are brought up everywhere Stu from my sales team goes. Trade shows, marketplace, you name it. Our influencers, our media people, it's really all, I mean, not all they talk about, so I shouldn't say that. But those are the two hot ticket items, people love it. And so, I mean, I'm all for them. And as I mentioned to Tom, I think it's wonderful to bring a new type of visitor to the depot who may not even know that we have a train, right, that runs out of that same depot, and you have all these bicyclist type people. I think it's a great opportunity. I hear such positive. Oh my gosh, I had no idea there was a train. Now I need to come back and ride the train, right? When the train is running, and come back for another trip. So I definitely love it was cool just to be back out on the rail bike. I think it's awesome, but I also don't want to get us going so fast now on something, given the situation we're talking about all these transitions, and now we're trying to start an operation with yet another vendor. I don't know. I just feel like that might be too much to deal with at this point. So
I think the one thing that's positive about this vendor is that he will be doing all his marketing, and it seemed that way.
Some economy of scale,
yeah.
the other operations.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I did talk with Robert about marketing, and so I'm not sure, I didn't get if he was going to handle that, or there was an expectation that it was shared with either us as the V&T Railway Commission or the DMOs. I guess probably more maybe on my side if it's the Carson City, but I guess that he wasn't sure either, right? So I don't know how much he knows this market from a marketing perspective either. So probably take some onboarding there, but anyway.
One thing I noticed about
Go
the
ahead.
bikes, there wasn't a dual braking system on it, and for me, that was a must. And as far as your feet, where your feet go, if you hit a tie or the crossings, that was, yeah.
Yeah,
I like-
and I don't want to seem like I'm nitpicking. The seatbelt thing was a little bit of an
Yeah.
issue for me as well. It was different how it connected, and then we were watching the seatbelt, I think, for one of you guys was kind of hanging down below. It was definitely different. I think there still needs to be better bumper design, because I know that was a huge issue with the Freedom Rail people, and we were chatting about that. I didn't even see that there was a tiny little piece of plastic on the front. I guess I missed that, but
It's rubber.
oh, it's rubber. Oh, okay.
Maybe we could put a pool noodle over the top.
You're
Just a little
right.
more.
Cut them in half. So, but the dual braking, you're right. I mean, I'm in agreement with you there. So, and I still think you need another person with the brake or the throttle. It's still only one person, and it was weird. I don't know how you felt, Leah, but it was weird trying to do the brake because the handle was one way and then the brake was around the other side. Again, I'm not trying to be critical of the so I don't even know if those are options. Can you redesign it? Probably not if they have 38 of these already sitting in a shop somewhere. But anyway, and maybe there's another opportunity for us to explore in-house too. So, I don't know. I'm just one of the five of you, but I still am hung up about the quad. So, and the price is
I agree.
an issue.
Yeah,
I think.
if we even were to entertain that price, I think we have to go with a quad. I just don't see the average
Yeah.
consumer in this area spending that much money.
Yeah, because per person, if it's one, it's still 149 plus all the fees, right? So, and I get that it's $300 or whatever it was, 295 or 319 or whatever it was. California, that is a different market for us. So, anyway, so
I think my take on it is this, you know, I think long-term, the more utilization we get on our track, the better, because it's a fixed asset that needs to be maintained. And so anything that we can do to generate income that leverages it is valuable. That being said, I don't know if trying to rush something into the season makes sense. I would not be opposed to just, you know, looking towards next year, but I think maybe we make some of these things, and I'm not opposed to authorizing Dave to negotiate or at least kind of open that door, but to say these are very real concerns and maybe non-negotiable, maybe like, you know, and kind of throw the ball back into their court and see what they think. Getting more specific on,
Yeah.
you know, these are the things that we're fine with. These are the things that,
So if I can jump in for just a second, Clay, I did ask Robert last week, or maybe it was a week and a half ago, I guess, about the quad, and that's he doesn't do quad bikes, and wouldn't for us either because their whole production and their whole patent, I guess, is predicated on the 2-seater only, you know, and so
well, I mean, I guess the question is this. So other than the opportunity cost of potentially losing out on what else might be available, not that we got a ton of responses to the RFP, but there may be other things available.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the downsides? We're making assumptions about marketability and what people are willing to pay, but you know, we've had 9% inflation over the last year consistently, and so maybe we don't know what we don't know. And I think, and I guess the question is, what are the downsides to exploring to letting someone operate with a different structure?
Please, Leah.
I think that the number one downside is just what we keep going back to, and that's the timing of everything. With everything else we have going on, is this something we want to try while we're trying to get our feet firmly planted? So,
Yeah, potentially for only 6, maybe 7 weeks in September and October. It's a hard lift for us on the DMO side as well, right? To say, oh yeah, we're gonna do rail bikes, but only for this condensed, you know, period of time. And the pricing, Clay, we've had complaints by people at the visitor center in Carson City that 55 is too high, believe it or not, which I don't think that's too high. You know, personally, I think that's a good sweet spot. Maybe it should be 50, whatever, but we've had people say that that's high, you know, because it's like, oh, this is going to cost me 220 plus taxes for my, you know, wife and 2 kids to come on. And my fear is now we're at 3 something, right, and another $100, and we sort of price ourselves right out of the rail bike, you know, business. And so, but whatever, you know, it's what you guys feel. But since we have a lot going on, and I know this is just bad timing, right? And so, but I think we have a bunch of things that we've got to get squared up in the next couple of months before we can entertain, just personally, outside a third-party vendor to come in and then do that onboarding. And I was telling Robert, it is not easy. You guys can attest to this, to hire staff here and good people and then stay on. And then what happens if they have a staffing issue like the predecessor, and now we're not even running, but a couple of days a week because there's no staff to even be up at the depot to run the rail bikes. And so, and if we start investing marketing money and it turns into a boondoggle, then I'll have separate issues on my end as well. So, I don't know. My thought is we just, I can personally, I will thank Robert, but I think just with everything we have going on, let's figure everything else out first. I don't know that we're going to have a huge loss to us, especially again, if we're only talking about 6 weeks of a season or 7, maybe, I guess, through the 3rd week of October is my thought, but just my thought.
Yeah, I 100% agree, with just apologies to him and his team for, spending the time to come out here and show us everything it needed to happen. We needed to see it. It's just our timing was not quite on point for this whole process.
Any other thoughts or? All right, great. Well, again, thank you, Robert, and to you and Stacy and your team for coming up. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move us on to agenda item 15 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a proposed special patrol service agreement with the High Sierra Patrol to provide security at the Eastgate Depot during general season operations for a total not to exceed amount of $1,620. And any questions? I think this one's pretty straightforward, covering the dates. Allison indicated that before the Saturday night, leaving the train down at the depot. Any concerns or questions on this one?
I have one.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
they could
please.
look at that security camera, or at least have access to it.
Oh, yeah. The one on, which one is
at
the
the
one that doesn't
depot.
work? On the south,
No.
east side?
No, I think he's not talking about the specific camera, but maybe potentially giving them access to check the
Oh.
cameras.
Oh,
or-
yeah. That's not a bad idea. I'm sorry, Tom, I misunderstood. We can do that. They could have their own login to the Ring thing, or?
I'm not sure if it's a service that they offer, but yeah, it's something that we can propose.
Okay, cool. That's a good idea. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Yeah, let's at least throw it out there, Adam. Good. All right. Anybody want to do a motion on this contract?
The only other thing I saw was on Exhibit A, they listed as the 2023 Polar Express summer schedule, which I thought was cute.
Oh,
Probably because maybe we use them more for Polar, and so that's what they're used to, and so
oh, yes.
they're just using that as their point of reference.
Yeah. Should we just say 2023 general season schedule?
Just or V&T, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, okay. V&T schedule, I like that. Easy. This is theirs though, right? So we just need to get that back from them with an update. Okay, then I can sign it. Okay, cool. So we'll say, 2023 V&T schedule. Perfect. Keep it simple. Good catch. Thank you, Clay. All right.
Yeah, V&T summer schedule, or
Yeah, V&T. Okay, V&T.
regular schedule, whatever, something.
Yeah, general season schedule. Okay, general. V&T, general season schedule. Okay. Allison, you could talk to them if everybody agrees to change that. Okay, cool. All right. Anybody want to make a motion on the security contract with High Sierra Patrol?
Yeah, this is Clay. I move to approve the special patrol service agreement with High Sierra Patrol to provide security at the Eastgate Depot during general season operations for a total not to exceed amount of $1,620.
Great. Thank you for that motion, Clay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Stephanie, for the second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All of those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. We are on to agenda item 16 for discussion only, and these are our monthly non-action items. So we'll go ahead, Allison, 16A, operations report, please. And you're just going to do some highlights.
Yeah, it's a little off the cuff today. I had some personal things come up this last week, which I actually wasn't supposed to be here today, but it was a little bit quiet, and so here I am. Just a few quick things that I want to bring to the commission's attention under operations. We had a sold out Mother's Day, beyond sold out.
Wow.
Lots of happy faces. We did do a new flower bar this year that went over very well. not as many sales of flowers that I would have. So it was, kind of make your own bouquet type of scenario, but every mother got to pick a flower from the flower bar. And then our VIPs got an actual bouquet themselves. We had some sales for additional bouquets, not as many as I would have hoped. But it still was a very nice addition. Previously, we just kind of handed one red rose to each mom. And so this was a little bit different and fun. We did offer the VIP car as well this year. And so at the VIP table, you got a little thing of grandma's fudge as well as a split of champagne at your table. And then the VIP room got a full bottle of champagne to split among 15 people in that room. The only thing we didn't sell out was Saturday private room. We didn't sell it that day. However, we did sell it on Sunday, and that group just absolutely loved that offering. So we did have just over 300 people each day for Mother's Day. One thing that we did run into is for Polar, we do bench seating, and for general season, we do buy the seat. For Mother's Day, we had an awfully large amount of odd numbered groups. And so what happens is, even though I kind of say, hey, this one ticket, you're going to make a buddy today, which is kind of how I say it. What ended up happening was, we had about 10 to 12 open seats throughout the entirety of the train. But then what that did is it displaced the groups that were in the back of the line, so they couldn't actually sit together. And so moving forward for these larger events, and maybe even as a whole with general season, I think Tom does this as well, moving to just offering the bench. Yeah, we could potentially get some pushback on, party of 3, party of 5. I don't want to pay for that extra seat. But what that does do is it ensures that groups are able to stay together. We did that with Polar this last year with overwhelming success. And I do think that it is something that we should consider moving forward. Excuse me. The one other thing is, due to staffing issues, the shuttle up in Story County is unavailable until further notice. And so I'm in the process of updating that on the website, and we'll be sending out an email to those that have purchased tickets for this weekend's train, but for discussion only. Do we look at a shuttle service? The last time we brought in a shuttle service, it was about $1,000 for the weekend through Amador. It's not that it's a far walk from the depot to C Street, but it is all uphill. And if any sort of elderly wheelchair, walker, et cetera, it's really not doable. It's not something that we promise, but I do think it's something, because it's been there in the past, it's a little bit expected. And we do get, for Mother's Day, at one point I had to say we didn't have a shuttle, but we ended up having a shuttle. But people are not happy when I have to be the bearer of bad news on that one. So I just, a plan there. I don't know if we need to come up with a plan, but definitely an area of discussion of how we want to handle the shuttle situation up at the depot there.
Can I know it's discussion only, I'm just wondering, in light of what you mentioned earlier, Clay, is that something, since it's technically, the shuttle is running in Story County, I'm wondering if we could tap into that funding to help.
It's not a funding issue, it's a staffing issue, but I think that's because of a poor decision to buy a Class B shuttle. And I think you open up your doors a lot more if you're running regular Class C vans or something, because then you have a lot more people that could be driving those, including people that already work for the senior center, giving rides to seniors. We potentially could MOU with them and pull them in to help out with that. Let me have some conversations.
Yeah, and Clay, not that I meant that about the staffing situation. I just meant the dollars. If we had to pay an Amador or someone else, is that something that we could utilize those extra monies that are sitting there in the Story County from the sales tax? Could we use those, since the shuttle is running inside Story County?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
ask for the money for anything.
Okay.
I think, to me, what's preferable is getting better utilization out of assets that already exist.
Sure.
Because you get better bang for your buck in the town, right?
Yeah,
Because there's
for
need
sure.
for transportation beyond just what we're doing. And so if there's a way to leverage
Yep.
existing structures, fund it with that as needed, right?
Yeah.
And see what we can do there. Let me
Okay.
let me just work on it again. And
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we could impact the June trains, perhaps, because our next train will run the 10th, right?
No, we do run
Or-
the first weekend, and
Okay.
we actually just booked, within the last 2 weeks here, a private group on the 2nd. And then I
Okay.
do believe we run the 3rd and the 4th, don't we? No, we don't.
No?
Oh, so unless we wanted to do a shuttle for the private group on the 2nd, I don't know that we promised that to them. So then, yeah, it would be the 9th, 10th, I think. 10th, 11th. That's close.
We're not, sorry. I was just looking at,
Wait, the 3rd or the 2nd?
I was going back to the patrol services contract and they have, maybe we need to check those dates.
Let me jump on the website really quick.
Because they're showing needing patrol on June 10th, 17th, and 24th.
That's correct. Because it's only Saturday night that we need. Yeah, so it would be,
Hang on. So, but we just talked about that we're running on the 3rd, though?
we're running
we're
a
not.
private group on the 2nd.
Oh, on Friday, the 2nd. Ah. Who is that group? Did
A
we talk-
private corporation that
Oh,
they're
I
going to
see.
do a team building activity.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry if you said that earlier. I apologize. Okay. So there's not a train on the 3rd and the 4th.
There is not,
The next one is the 10th and the 11th. Okay.
correct.
Is that something we should ask VCTC if they can accommodate with a shuttle?
I was told by VCTC that until further notice.
Aaliyah did send an email, yeah, to that effect.
Right.
So I was
See,
wondering.
and the problem is, I think they're thinking that shuttle, and I don't think that shuttle is the solution. So
Ah.
let's talk.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's great.
We'll get an email out to the group this weekend. I do anticipate some refunds there. I would argue that we should waive the $25 refund fee if we are refunding people due to the shuttle. So we're going to get
Seems
that out.
fine. I guess under the circumstances, yeah. So, yeah, because I think we thought we were going to be okay. So-
It's a great, I mean, it's nowhere listed on our website.
Right.
We pulled that off last year when we started to run into shuttle issues. It's not in our ticketing. Nowhere is it really included that we offer the shuttle service. But I think because of the long-standing tradition, thank you, and repeat riders, they anticipate, and tends to be the riders that need the shuttle that ride our train over and over again.
It should be noted that there is no shuttle when they buy the ticket. That would help them out, for sure.
Yeah, and we've
We-
added that.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, cool.
Yep, Allison and Leah did put that on, Tom, just because we were still trying to figure out the short bus version, yeah, whether or not it could be used or not. Sorry for interrupting, but please continue.
That was really just the major updates that I had. It was a busy month, and sales are coming in. And this is kind of across the board with all of the events that we've had, not just with the V&T, but we used to think that it was a last minute town. It is now really a last minute town. I mean, we're talking day of. We had several walk-ups for Mother's Day. So we had a standby list that day. We were able to get most of them on. So it's hard to know by Wednesday what Saturday will look like, more so even than years past. So
Did Saturday of that weekend perform better than in the past?
for Mother's Day or for
Yeah.
last weekend?
Mother's Day.
I only have 1 year to go off of.
Okay.
And I don't think I have the access to the year prior. So I know that we had more offerings than we've ever had, and we sold that out. We did not sell out last year, mainly because of the timing from when we went on sale to when Mother's Day occurred. The window was actually similar this year. However, we had a massive advertising campaign that launched as soon as we launched tickets. And so I do think that that helped. So I can't confidently say yes, but I can say that we offered more than we've ever offered, and we
Okay.
sold that out.
Yeah, because I just vaguely remember when we were at the retreat or whatever, looking back, that was a fairly low occupancy day last year, a potential revenue bump, right? I was looking at it, going, oh, there's one that, and so it sounds like we moved in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And you guys did a great job with the depot, so I love the flowers. I'm sorry I didn't people weren't buying them from those nice folks, but it looked lovely up there, so.
And we
very
did
nice
have
display.
vendors, thank you.
Yeah.
We did have vendors this year.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't-
craft, artisans, yeah.
We did. We had
Yeah.
artisans,
Yeah,
and where the
great.
rail bikes were formerly where you would load for Polar.
Mhm.
It it was an experiment. We tried it. I don't know that sales were high enough for them to make it worth it in the future. We did, I was on Colo. We did advertise it. We had our vendors up on the website. I don't know that I would offer it again. It was a lot of coordination to get the vendors, get them there, get them situated, et cetera. I had to be there extra early. I was hoping that, vendor artisans would be a draw, but I think people wanted to do their shopping in Virginia City, and they did. So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Any questions for Allison or Leah? Okay, thank you.
I do
No,
want to
go ahead.
mention one other thing. We did run last weekend as well. We ran diesel, and our numbers were okay. They were better on Saturday than they were on Sunday. So we had about 101 on Saturday, which is about a break even. And then we were 79 on Sunday. So the diesel was a little bit lower. And then going into this next weekend, I've got 148 on Saturday and 137 on Sunday. I do anticipate those numbers to bump up as we get closer to the weekend.
That's for this Memorial Day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 148, 137, okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. If there are no questions for Allison, let's move on to 16B, Train Operations Report. Tom, do you have anything you want to add in?
I think it's been pretty much covered. The wheelchairs we get every once in a while, most people will walk up if they don't have a jitney, but most people like to use the jitney if they're there.
Right.
Our 48th season, we're just doing our steam again. We're hoping to get the extension for the 29 for the rest of the season. No, it's been a great meeting, thanks.
Good. No, thank you, Tom. Okay, wonderful. Any questions for Tom? Okay. 16C is the engineer's report from Ken. So this is, just for the record, late material. It was on the website yesterday, and it's in the back of the room. So you see Ken's report. Sorry, I'm looking at you, Tom. Ken's report, and then there was a supplemental document that was added as late material too, which does address the water situation, which I would think we call our hot chocolate room, or I think, but anyway, so I can try to answer any questions if anybody has any questions, but also I think, Mahela, if there's any direct questions, I can collect them and send them to Ken for a response as well. Oh, do you have anything, Gabe, you want to throw in there from his supplemental doc or anything? You want to come up and just, because it sounds like we're going to have to get a plumber or something involved.
Hello. Yeah. Well, Gabe was digging, and I asked him to find the water, so he found the spigot. The shutoff valve. Yeah, found the shutoff valve, and the standpipe the shutoff valve's in didn't really have a cover on it, and so I sucked out all the dirt, and the pipe broke when I was digging it out. So somebody, Armac did drop off a 6-foot piece of pipe we could replace it with. Somebody's going to have to dig that down and put it in there and put a cap on it. But the water dead ends inside the building right behind the little tiny fridge. It's there, and if you want it to go to the sink, you're going to have to hire a plumber and run it 20 feet.
So it's not just digging down 6 feet to connect the broken pipe. We still need to get a section that goes.
The water pipe's not broken. It's the pipe to reach the shutoff valve. It's like the standpipe. Yeah, just the plastic pipe that makes sure the rocks.
Oh, like if you have a sprinkler system, you have to drop a key down there to.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
that's
Okay.
the pipe that needs to be
Okay.
replaced. Not the water pipe itself. The water pipe is fine.
Okay.
It just dead ends inside the building. In fact, the water's turned on right now,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so somebody's going to have to replace that little standpipe.
You keep looking at Clay to replace the standpipe, so
You like picks and shovels, right?
Wow. Okay. All right. So that's something that we'll just have to figure out and deal with then, I guess. Because now we cannot turn the water off, if I understand correctly, because nobody can get the key on.
No, you could
Oh,
turn off the water.
we
I
can.
just left it on because
Okay.
why not? It's
Okay.
got a little ball valve on the very end of the
Okay.
deadhead inside the building, so,
Okay. Okay, cool.
you know, not a problem.
All right. Good, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
So we don't have a bid yet on this project. There's no bid from a plumber?
Nope.
No, only because you just uncovered the situation last week, right?
Last month.
Or yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
we'll probably have to get a quote, I guess, from a plumbing company.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll get her done though. All right. Anything on the, yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just gonna note, on Ken's report, you know, I know he's retiring, but I noticed the last sentence, or the last paragraph on the first page is that he said he would be available to assist the commission on an on-call basis. And with I know we can't act on anything, but with the upcoming parking lot project, that might be, you know, a great way to utilize him on an on-call basis, is to help us get through that project's completion. So just a thought.
Okay. We'd have to bring something forward next month and to figure out what that means with him. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on to 16D, which is our upcoming meeting, June 28th, 9 a.m. We'll probably be done before 5 p.m. on that day. That much I know. All right. No field trips, no, unless you want one. All right. We'll move on to 17, Commissioner comments or announcements and requests for information. Anybody have anything they want to bring up? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 18, public comment. Anybody wish to make public comment at this time? Seeing none, if I could get a motion to adjourn? Unless you guys want to stay.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, seriously, for your time and patience today. Thank you.